So, over the past few years, I've been slightly terrified of being curious, or rather showing my curiosity. It seems like we live in a world where everyone demands perfection. There's no space for trial and error, there's no space for learning as you go along. You should get it right the first time and the first time only. Now, curiosity has unfortunately become associated with fringe thinking, extreme unhinged thoughts linked more closely to paranoia and mistrust than intellectual rigour and experimentation, and thus anyone who demonstrates curiosity, which is not conspiratorial in nature, should be accurate and an expert, and anything less than that is considered lazy work. Now, as a dyslexic, I'm constantly told to try harder and put more effort into my work because I will regularly mispronounce and misspell words I have spent over 20 hours reading about, or even a lifetime writing about or reading about. I will mispronounce words that I know how to say, but when I'm reading them, I don't, etc. Now, despite not having access to very good teaching and largely being self-taught in my adult life, like post 16, 17 years old, no one cared that I was curious enough to try and learn about something. They were more angry and offended that I didn't get it right or perfect the first time. It angered and frustrated people that someone as uncultured as and uneducated as me should even dare try touch a subject they cared about, and if I weren't going to do it perfectly, they preferred that I had never tried at all. Now, nothing has really changed. People on the internet are equally as demanding of others that they be perfect as teachers and parents were back in school days. And our fear of being imperfect is creating more and more ignorance, I think. People are becoming terrified to be curious, of being called out for being wrong or imperfect, so much so that they'll do the bare minimum to seem like they are right, which usually requires agreeing with someone else more popular. See, rather than reading several books about a topic and analysing it for themselves, they'd feel more confident in regurgitating what people on Reddit had to say as a summation of said topic. They'll read a headline of a biased resource rather than read primary resources or look at them and analyse data for themselves. They'll copy the opinions of a famous and somewhat educated, potentially high-standing individual rather than read about the topic themselves from a library or read multiple resources about that topic rather than just one book. And who can blame them? For thousands of years, humans have been warned that curiosity is dangerous. The consequences of opening Pandora's jar, the eating the apple from the tree of knowledge, have been imprinted on our minds since childhood, regardless if where we are in the world and where we grow up. Curiosity leads to the fall of mankind and us as individuals. So, we eschew curiosity subconsciously, terrified to engage with what we don't know whilst we're alone, without it being spoon-fed, without someone older and wiser holding our hand, without it first being chewed up and spat out by a stranger on the internet who makes it more digestible, and we trust them for it, despite not even knowing what they ate. Being curious takes effort, and we don't have time for effort. We should have all become millionaires a decade ago. We should have all reached our potential by the time our prefrontal cortex had developed. So now, we're all running on lost time, so we don't have time to be curious, and people are unforgiving of those who are curiously imperfect. People want other people to be curious for them, drip-feed them opinions, positions and stances, and summarise complicated topics that are easy to consume and then repeat. They never question how others came to those positions or what resources they ate to produce them, or whether or not they're accurate. If they're easy to repeat, that's all that's needed. But what if that person's summation of a complicated topic is a summation that they got from their father 20 years ago and repeated over and over again, but their father actually never read a single book on it? What if their understanding of something comes from a single blog post or even just one book they read many years ago and never read any other resources? People don't care because curiosity is expensive and all of us are running dry, and it's cheaper to outsource it from fast food sources, a 30-minute podcast episode or a 3-minute TikTok video. People have sacrificed curiosity at the altar of Google. Curious minds Google things all the time, don't they? For those of us who tap away for hours and hours at the pure white Google homepage, We're the curiosity hunters, starved for knowledge. But when we're Googling, are we truly looking for the opportunity to learn? Or are we looking for the chance to be correct, to get it right, to find the answer and be done with the question, move it from our minds and move on to something else? In the same way we scroll through endless streams of mindless material, jumping from app to satiate our need for something. But what is that something? Perhaps it's the void we created when we deserted curiosity. Just like eating fast food, we think we're satiating our mind and saving it from hunger, when in reality, it's rotting and wilting from a lack of nutrients. Like an unexercised muscle, it's not engaged with its full potential, so it gets weaker and weaker, lifting only the lightest of material, unable to carry the heavy load that healthy curiosity demands. So how do we reclaim and even potentially retrain our curiosity muscle? Well, the first thing we need to do is to be kind. We need to be kind to others for being curious, not always turning to berating, patronising, or assuming the worst of other people's attempts to engage with a topic. Yes, this also includes misinformation. Whilst, sadly, there are a lot of bad actors purposefully spreading misinformation, the vast majority of those repeating it aren't. And aggression, condescension, and high-grounding positioning oneself against another won't shift the needle in a positive direction. If anything, it feeds into their insecurities and paranoia more. And before you attempt such a position, ask yourself, am I truly the best person? Am I really that informed, or am I just another person on the internet who just so happened to get their position from a different corner of the internet than that person did? So really, it's just luck and happenstance dividing the two of us. On a less extreme scale, stop expecting perfection from others and expecting them to be educated on every single detail of every single matter that you see them engage with. And that goes for also agreeing with your take. You know you can't live up to those standards yourself. Perfection doesn't even exist in rigorous academic research or in books, which are overlooked by teams of proofreaders and peer reviewers. So expecting the same quality from individuals without a team behind them is a bit of a fantasy. But what's really important about being kind to others is once you stop judging others for their curiosity, you'll take the pressure off yourself. After all, that perfectionistic judgment narrative living in your head targets you every single minute of the day, first and foremost. You're the greatest victim to your inner dialogue. So once you take yourself out of the practice of judging other people's curiosity, you'll start to become more lenient on your own and stop judging yourself so harshly. And I think to be more curious, at least for myself, I need to get off the internet and find things slower. Having answers at the tips of my fingers, whether that's sitting in my pocket or on the desk, robs me of engaging with the archaeology of wisdom. In the same way people no longer farm or hunt for their food, having the internet means we no longer need to hunt and work for what we consume. We can idly flick at a device and it delivers answers within a matter of seconds, but where was the journey? Where was our connection with what we consume? Similarly to how fast food and manufactured processed food, we are disconnected from what we are consuming. We don't see the secret intricacies of all the chemicals that are being put in. The same happens when we just Google an answer rather than look for it ourselves. Curiosity involves getting our hands dirty, digging through libraries and analysing the artefacts of information for ourselves with our own eyes and without external influence. We should be handling things alone before we turn to look at what others have said, and yet we do the latter and never the former. So really, we need to be proud of the dirt on our hands, of the stains that we leave on our face when people laugh at us for getting it wrong, or not exactly right there, because at least we tried. At least we did the digging ourselves. At least we read the resources. But that's just my nerdy thoughts on curiosity, and basically me telling myself to go to the library more often, because I went recently for quite a couple of days for something, and I really enjoyed it. I need to embrace it, so I want to encourage everyone else. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much if you did. If you are a Patreon, thank you so much. And if you like this video, and consider subscribing and liking. And I'll see you soon for another video. And remember, be happy and healthy, and books save lives. So keep reading.